Hello, I'm Eileen McHugh with the BBC News. The authorities in the eastern Ukrainian region of Luhansk have said Russian tanks have begun advancing for a renewed assault. Our defence correspondent Jonathan Beale is there.
One Western official tonight said that they expected Russia to double, even triple, its forces in this region. They already have 40,000 troops in this area. And I think everybody is expecting this phase of the war to be decisive. They're also expecting it to be bloody. Remember, the person who President Putin has put in charge of this military campaign, now the new general in charge, has been dubbed the Butcher of Syria. He leveled cities there. The expectation is he could do the same here.
The Ukrainian authorities say they're investigating cases of women being raped by Russian forces. The BBC's Yogita Lamai has been to a village outside Kiev and heard first-hand testimony.
Police say they are investigating the case of a woman in her 40s from a quiet rural neighbourhood in the west of Kiev who was taken to a house in her village, raped and then murdered by one of the invading soldiers. Down the road from the building where she was killed, the BBC met another woman who said she was raped too. The woman's husband was shot dead by another soldier. Ukraine's human rights ombudsman has told the BBC about several other such cases. She said they were receiving calls on support helplines every day, but it was hard to assess the scale of sexual crimes because people were not usually willing to explain what happened to them.
The US and Britain say they are looking into reports that chemical weapons have been used by Russian forces attacking the southern Ukrainian port of Mariupol. A Pentagon spokesman in Washington said there was no confirmation, but the situation was being carefully monitored. Earlier, Ukraine's Azov regiment said Ukrainian soldiers entrenched in Mariupol experienced respiratory problems after Russian drones had passed over the area. The White House says President Biden used an hour-long video conversation with the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi to emphasise it was not in Delhi's interest to increase its imports of energy from Russia. The government in Delhi has so far declined to impose sanctions or criticise Russia's invasion of Ukraine directly. Speaking at a press conference with his Indian counterpart, US Secretary of State Antony Blinken said like-minded countries needed to unite against Russia.
In our judgment, it is important that all countries, especially those with leverage, press Putin to end the war. And it's also important that democracies stand together and speak with one voice to defend the values that we share. And we do share profoundly the values of freedom, openness, independence, sovereignty, and those values need to apply everywhere.
World News from the BBC. France says it's expelling 6 Russian diplomats suspected of working as spies. French security officials said they'd uncovered a clandestine operation by Russian intelligence services in which the diplomats had been working contrary to French interests. The move comes a week after France expelled 35 other Russian embassy staff as part of a joint European action in response to Moscow's invasion of Ukraine. The Red Cross says at least 30 people have been killed in 2 days of attacks by gunmen in the east of the Democratic Republic of Congo. Will Ross reports.
The attacks are thought to have been carried out by the Allied Democratic Front. They were brutal. Some of the victims had been found tied up, others had had their throats slit. Homes were torched and property looted. In December, more than 1,000 Ugandan soldiers crossed into Congo for what was meant to be a joint military operation to defeat one of the deadliest rebel groups operating in the region. But despite promises of progress, the ADF has continued to carry out frequent attacks on vulnerable communities.
The Mexican authorities say gunmen have killed 8 people in an attack on a house near Mexico City. 6 women and 2 men died in the shooting in Tultepec, just north of the capital. Local media said they were members of the same family. President Biden has announced new rules to crack down on what are known as ghost guns, privately made firearms without serial numbers that are increasingly being used in violent crime in the US. Ghost guns are sold in kit form and can be assembled at home. They do not require a licence or a background check. Mr Biden said such guns were the weapons of choice for many criminals. The new measures would make it illegal for businesses to manufacture kits without a serial number and for dealers to sell them without a background check. They are likely to meet heavy resistance from the gun lobby. BBC News.